Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. Sorry, hello, no shorty. I have a bit of a cold today, so apologies, my voice might sound a bit weird. I had my sinuses bunged up, so I was sleeping with my mouth open and my throat's got sore. I am not well, but I'm going to review Fox and Hare, and I wasn't going to review this one, I'm afraid, simply because when it arrived and I flicked through it, I wasn't a big fan of the artwork. And this is not to say that I think the artwork is necessarily bad. It's just not to my taste. It is a little bit too clean. There's an awful lot of just nice, bold kind of lines and bright, vibrant colors, which are all good. And the artist in this particular instance, Lee, don't have a full name on top of my head, does a very good job of what they're doing, but it's not to my taste, so I'll put it to one side thinking I'll review something else. But I've been seeing a lot of actually really good reviews for it. So I thought, okay, let's actually give this a shot. Let's see what's going on here. See why other people are getting something from the I didn't. And I read it from start to finish, and I still didn't like it. And there's a few reasons why. We're going to start with the fact that it's clearly kind of doing a cyberpunk thing. And my expectations of cyberpunk and this kind of vary a little bit. To start with, you've got the anti-corporate kind of thing, and yes, that is in there. They literally have a corporation they've created for it, and they have the guy in charge of it is also a mayor or a prime minister, should I say. And it all works quite well together that this is too much top-heavy corporate control, and they're doing nefarious things and should be stamped upon. That is brilliant. That's perfectly fine. You do have some transhumanism as well, but it's mostly retraining the brain with implants, which brilliant. The Matrix did this quite effectively with learning kung fu and what have you, combat programming. But that's about it, and it feels very thin. It doesn't really add much to the story either, other than give like one of the other characters a reason to be around. And then we've got the fact that there's usually, in my case at least, I like neo-noir to be part of it, because you are still dealing with crime stories, and there should be some like dark aging going on. And there really isn't any of that in here. It actually feels kind of light, even though like the kids being kidnapped. It all feels very kind of obvious as well. And when we get into the actual writing of it, like the actual dialogue on the page and things that happen, rather than just the point of the comic book, the detail of the comic book is actually not great either, at least in my opinion. There is a tendency for the characters to use a certain exclamation, I think la, if I remember correctly. I'm not entirely sure what this means. This is a cultural issue, obviously. I'm not saying that because you're going to put something which I understand that's necessarily a bad thing, but I can kind of get a little bit from context usually. I think this is more of an exasperated kind of thing, frustration maybe, but I'm not 100% sure. And it never seems to come at a point where I'm expecting it to. And when I'm reading it out in my head, this kind of breaks the cadence a little bit of how people are talking, and it makes me have to go back and reread things a couple of times to kind of get a better idea about what's going on. And I don't think that's the sign of good writing. Sometimes I will go back and I'll reread some writings because it's absolutely brilliant and it deserves a second look. Apologies. But in this particular instance, it just feels more like the point isn't being made clear enough first time round. You also have just some kind of odd plot hole kind of things going on in it. Very early on, after a little bit of setup, they're going to break into an abandoned facility, which was tied in with a bunch of kids going missing in the past. And they very much say that this is an abandoned facility. And when they get in there, they're actually engaging in a fight with a bunch of people, which surprised me for an abandoned facility. But then there's an alarm goes off and it changes the entire lighting situation to a nice, pleasing red color, which looks fantastic, by the way. And they seem surprised. It's like, oh yeah, but we thought this place was abandoned. Why is security now coming on? We've already been here killing all these people in this abandoned factory. And it turns out there's some hacking going on, should I say. And the hacker is brought up on a screen, which is kind of an odd thing to happen. But if you eventually realize that the hacker is actually in the building, and the security thing is just showing what's going on. And I was like, okay, but it's an abandoned thing. Okay, maybe the hacker has to be on site because if it is abandoned, then there's no there's only internet, there's no internet. Maybe that's why they've come in. But bring them up on a screen, and then two giant security robots are there in this abandoned facility, and Fox and Hare have to go deal with it. Well, one of them goes and helps these kids they've rescued in this abandoned facility. And once they deal with the two robots, then a whole bunch of other security set up in this abandoned facility. And the thing is, I can see that as being a really cool little plot device. I was just, oh wow, this place isn't as abandoned as we thought. There's a lot more going on here. We need to investigate this. Never bring it up again. They just kind of they make a big point about the fact it's abandoned, but they never appear surprised that the security is this top notch and is dangerous to everyone, and there is actually kids here, even though. Again, this is tied in within the story that something's happened a while ago, and the factory's got shut down. The facility's got shut down because of people finding out what's happened. I honestly, I generally struggle to get past that point. And to say the artwork wasn't quite my cup of tea, I cannot imagine myself ever picking anything up in this series and carrying on with it. And from Vault Comics, that is pretty damn rare. They will usually take some big swings, but do things that are interesting and fun and engaging. And in this case, it wasn't really any of those, unfortunately. That's it from me today. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully feeling an awful lot better. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.